Hello guys, so welcome back. Um, so this project that I've been working on is my final year project that is a payroll system. So I'd started yesterday by doing the project setup, and I'll be building along until my presentation day. So this I'll try and build a payroll system for a company, and probably let's see how things will go. So whatever I'll be building here, I hope someone might learn a thing or two. I know I'm not that perfect, but with the software, as long as you code and write things along, the more you learn about how best you can write it. So this will be day 2 of whatever we've been working on. So yesterday, what we covered was setting up the decorators for binding our classes, because we're going to use object-oriented approach, and with that I think will make things a bit easier for us. So because I'm going to be using TypeScript in this, I will have this decorator for binding. So this is what to bind. What it will do is to just make sure that we bind the methods for our class. So let me just first we are going to be writing something here on because this code will go to GitHub. I need to like set up a gitignore so that we ignore the files that are not needed in this production build. So I built a package for doing this, and I'll just make it simple. You just run npx and gitignore create. Then this should be able to create a .gitignore in the current directory. So npx is quite sluggish. So you can see it's created, and if you check here, a bunch of content has been put in here. So just to confirm, I'll remove these typings because sometimes it creates chaos with the folders, so I'll just remove that. To demonstrate how I generate this, you can head over to this page. You can go to gitignore. So for gitignore, there's one known as top total. So top total here, you can easily generate ignore files. So you'll just specify the language you're using. Let's say I'm using Node. I'll write Node. If I'm using yarn, I'll add yarn. Then I'll just click create. Then it should be able to generate a bunch of these files. Also GitHub ignore generator. So there are so many ways by which you can create these files. If you go to GitHub and you probably don't know where to start, you can add a .igno files, then it will give you a template for creating that. So for me, I just compiled everything and put it into a package that I can always reuse for building this. So once we have this created, the next thing is to I think our code is running. Save. It's running on port 8080. So that's something good. Now, how do we get started on building on this API? So what I usually do is to make sure I install all the necessary tools. So I'll install I had installed .env, so I'll install Morgan for logging, helmet, for some security reasons. So we are using yarn, add cause, add helmet, add Morgan. Then we can set up logging, but for now I'm not going to set up any logging. So we have cause, we have helmet, we have Morgan for login. So then we'll also need Zod. So everything has been installed. In here, I'll create a folder known as common. So in the common, I'll just take my config and push it inside common. DI, I will also push it into common because I'll be reusing it in the whole project. I have the app left and the API outside. Next is to add a schema. So put common schemas inside the common folder. Then I can add env schema.ts. So when I have this env, what I can do is to just export. I'll import Zod, Z from Zod. So once I have Zod there, I'll take the schema. So what I need to write here is to we export const env schema. So then we can export type env, and this should also extend the okay, let me see how to make this type safe. Make env type safe for node. Yes. So let me see. Okay, environment variable type safe. Okay. env.ts import.env. Okay. string.nonempty host. So what we need to do here, I'll just export this env schema. Then inside the config here, I will import import env schema. So this env schema will be using it for our env. So export const config, which will be our env schema.parse the process.env. So if there will be any error, you should be able to propagate here. Then you can see we are already getting some issues, like from this one, you can get config. To avoid this, I think I can just export default. Export default config. With that, so if I export config, that means I can just import it as config, whichever the name I'll give it. Then the config should be able to config. So we don't have this API port. I'll add it in here. Okay, const number string. Then const what's here? So in here we'll have the port. So it will be a number string which will resolve to, I'll go with 8080, which is our default. Then const env which will be z.enum, which will either be development, production, or test. So here we'll just have it as mode. Then we can specify it as that. Then once you have that, when we come here, we need to specify all these. So when you come back here, you'll have port. It's config dot port. Here also we'll be having port. So once you have the port there, we'll make sure that just come. Just okay. Not bad. So we already have the port and this other one. The next thing is to this, yeah, it's now fixed. Why is it saying okay, provide list option in our app set up here. So here I'll pass limit to 100 MB. Then here I'll pass extended to true. So the extended option allows you to choose between passing the URL encoded data with query string library when false, or the QS library. Oh, okay. So it's just matter of using a different library for passing the URL. So let's save, and you can see. Let me try. Yeah, now the error is gone. Yeah, we don't have any errors now in our console. That means everything is working well. So currently our env is having some default values, so let's try and make it break. Host, let's pass host. Host will be a default localhost. Then what do we need to be passed here? Those will come with the time. So next is to build now some of the processors. So we need a way to handle some rejections and what have you. So let's set up a global error handler. So then you can just say here in the common add errors. So backend. So in here we'll have we'll set up our error handler. So then the common here we can have another one called HTTP. So inside the HTTP, we can have our index.ts. Inside here, I have like a simple a class that contains everything. So it simplifies everything that I'm going to be working with here. So just to go over this is just a list of HTTP status codes with a brief description of what they're doing. Then we have a type which is exporting the status codes. Then afterwards, we also have a class which has the status codes, and all of them are mapped to specific status code. So this one will be very handy when now we'll be doing some of the HTTP methods. So next we need to build our error handler. So we'll add some file known as base. So in our base, it will be class, so export class. So this class will be API error, which will extend. So we're not extending the base class, so extends error. So the name will be just, so we extend in the constructor we pass a message which will be just, let's say, an internal server error. Then next to it we'll have our status code. So for the status code here, we'll have HTTP status code from the HTTP status codes that we had. So this will be a list of these numbers. Then we'll default to HTTP status dot internal server error, which will be a number. Then we can have any metadata, which will be just an object. Then we can have maybe some errors. So for these errors, I don't think if this one will be necessary. So we have API error with the message, status code, and the meta. So meta will be optional. Then just below it, we can create a method, a static method, public. Then we can also have so we'll push these ones up just above the constructor. Then now we can assign these values. That meta is equals to meta. So in the meantime, I'll use underscore here so that we can use getters and setters. Then now we can use the get status code and get meta set meta. So meta here must be a record just a record. Then we can set our status code, which must be a status code. So that's it for this. Next, then we can have a JSON transformer. So this one will return the message, status code, and the meta. So if we don't have the meta, then we can just return an empty object. Then we can get from error. So so when we get something from error, we pass the error.message, then we'll get an internal server error here. Then for the meta, we'll provide we'll just provide the stack. So for this stack, we'll make sure that whenever we get the API error, for here we'll just make it as internal unknown true. Then we can have okay, just that is enough. So this is enough for our API error. So this is our error class that will be reusing across. So if we get anything that requires an error, we'll be using this error class for handling those errors. Advantage of this is once we get that instance, it will be very easy to manage them. So next is to set up error handlers. So for the error handlers, what we'll do is to base error handlers .ts. So in here, what I'll do is to export a class which will be API error handler. So this should be our route error handler. So what we'll need to do is we need to make sure this is a dependency that we can auto inject, as we had said earlier. So we'll add here at injectable. Okay, so we'll pass injectable, which is coming from Inversify, and then now we'll pass our at dependency, because if you can remember from our DI here, what we did was we in the auto bind we had this function which we were supposed to call when we're supposed to be passing our target class inside the index here. Then now we call the auto bind, which now binds all the methods associated to that class. Afterwards, then now we bind it to the dependency container. Then we just need to pass this at dependency decorator to make sure that this is injected. Then we just add it here at dependency from our DI, then it should be able to work. So next thing here is to public cut. Let me just cut all. So it will take request, response, and next, and we also have error. So this means in our HTTP here, I will need to extend these. So export type API request, which will be request from Express, and so this should be a key and string any. Then we can export response, then we can also export next function. So just import this next function. Then now we can reuse API request, API response, and API next. So if you come here to base handler, you can have API request, API response, API res, then API next.